V3 Superchargers everywhere. Tesla Charging is tweeting out every single day a new V3 Supercharger location, and all of us greedy Tesla owners hate it because these all peak at a mere 250 kilowatts. I think my smartphone actually charges at 250 kilowatts. That's way too slow. We all want faster chargers. We all want to know about the next generation when V4 is launching in the United States. And today, for the first time ever, we actually have some actual tangible updates on the rollout of hopefully some V4 Superchargers. But yeah, Europe has definitely gotten first dibs. However, it should be mentioned that the V4 Superchargers in Europe are merely just updates to the dispensers, otherwise known as those, white, big, tall things that you park next to, grab the cable from, and plug it into your car. On the back end, the big boxes, the cabinets that are powering those chargers, they're actually still V3. They're not outputting any more power, even though they have these updated dispensers, likely for a bit of future-proofing. As far as I understand it, it should be fairly simple for Tesla to swap out those back-end cabinets with new ones so that they can update these chargers to support higher speeds, more volts, more amps, which makes sense in the EU because there's a lot more higher voltage EVs there. And V4 was a fairly simple thing to roll out in the European Union because they have an agreed upon charge port, CCS2. So all the Tesla Superchargers have CCS2 and all the non-Tesla DC fast chargers also have CCS2. But here in the US, even though all the serious EV automakers have kind of agreed on NACS, there's still a lot of EVs with CCS1, and of course Tesla has NACS and the future is NACS. But the exciting thing is there has finally been a few sightings of V4 Superchargers being installed, first in Wilsonville, Oregon, and now today there's been a sighting at Sparks, Nevada. So the good news here is that the dispensers are being installed in multiple locations. These are not close to each other. There's probably somewhere between 500 and 600 miles between these two new locations, which means while there's only two I'm reporting on today, there's a very real chance that every day that goes by, people will spot more of them. There's a good chance Tesla could be installing lots of them across the country, and these are just the two that have been found by someone who actually knows what they're looking for. But what we don't have confirmation on yet is exactly what Tesla is doing with the back-end cabinets. Are they pulling a V4 Supercharger launch like Europe, where the dispensers are updated but not the cabinets on the back end, which means if you're a Tesla owner, this is still just going to be like any other supercharger. I mean, it's cool that the new dispensers are there, like there's no hole anymore, they're just tall, and I'm sure lots of people will take pictures of themselves charging with them. But if the cabinets aren't updated, then yeah, all of your brand new Teslas are still going to have a peak charging speed of 250 kilowatts, even if you had a Cybertruck, basically. If they don't upgrade the cabinets, you're not going to get better charging speeds than a V3. However, there's actually, in my opinion, a lot more of a reason to start rolling out these V4 Superchargers in the United States, because we know Tesla is just a couple of months away from opening up like 12,000 plus superchargers to CCS1 vehicles in the United States. That means F-150 Lightnings, Mustang Mach-E's, Chevy Bolts, your Hummer EVs, your Blazer EVs, your Rivian R1Ts. There's so many other EVs that are now going to be able to access the supercharger network, and if they start all just showing up to these V3 locations, the cable's not long enough for them to park in proper locations. Now, there's some luckily out there with like pull-through designs where you could back into it if your charge port is in a different location, but sadly, so many non-Teslas out there put their charge ports in different places, which means that while yes, the software and the adapter might exist for a CCS1 electric vehicle to plug into a V3 supercharger, but they're going to have to park awkwardly and very likely take up two stalls because you're stealing a cable from another charger, which means a Tesla's not going to be able to charge there. But that's where V4 comes in and should help out a lot, because the cable is about 3 feet longer with V4, and the dispensers are typically more centrally located in the parking stall, which is basically another way of saying that it shouldn't matter how you park at a V4 supercharger because the cable should be able to reach either side of the vehicle. Obviously on a Rivian, the port is on the front, so you'll just have to pull in straight when you want to charge, and then if you have something like an Ioniq 5 or a Kia EV6, that charge port is still on the back, so you'll need to back in, but the cable should still reach fine either way. And the good news is the person who caught that V4 supercharger going in Wilsonville, Oregon, had a fairly high resolution camera, which is refreshing because I feel like everything in the leak world involves people having the most crappy potato quality cameras. This person actually uploaded a pretty great shot, and you can zoom in a bit and see what I think appears to be a magic dock, which makes a lot of sense if Tesla is going to be basically picking up the slack of Electrify America and holding up the CCS network for non-Teslas out there. Because while sure, some people are going to get access to that adapter and try to plug into V3 superchargers, a lot of people probably won't, and Tesla is trying to make this as easy as possible for all of the non-Teslas out there. So I think there's a decent chance that the vast majority of V4 superchargers going in the United States not only, of course, will support NACS for all existing Teslas, but they'll also have Magic Docks. So if you want to charge your non-Tesla, you just activate it through the app like normal, and you pull it out and you can plug it in, and it doesn't matter how you park, the cable should reach just fine, and you should get pretty decent charging speeds, assuming the non-Tesla auto manufacturers are doing their job properly. It'd be a very interesting story, though, if Tesla ends up updating the back-end cabinets, unlike what they did in Europe, and actually support higher voltages and faster charging speeds at these locations, because then, theoretically, you might even start to see faster charging speeds with Porsche Taycans or Lucid Airs or Hummer EVs than you can get with Teslas. Like, would they be okay with that? Probably not, but we've also seen some leaked images of tiny little pay terminals that they hid on the side of V4 superchargers, which honestly I don't think is really necessary at all, but there has been some federal funding from different states that has required that to be added to EV charging locations, saying that, okay, if you have a payment terminal and a little display, then you get way more access to federal funding and even state funding to deploy at scale your DC fast charging network. So Tesla might end up finding the cheapest, most cost-effective way to put a little payment terminal, which for a non-Tesla owner might be pretty compelling because you don't have to download the Tesla app, set up an account with Tesla. Instead, you could just pull up to one of these chargers, and just like a gas pump, you would tap your card for payment, and then you plug your car in, and boom, it just starts charging your car, and that little screen tells you how much the price is for the charging session and how many kilowatts you're getting. In my ideal world, you wouldn't need a payment terminal. Like, every automaker should just get on board with some kind of plug and charge functionality, so you don't have to look at the screen. You could just back into a space and plug it in, and boom, it just starts working, and you already have a payment method attached to your VIN. But for a lot of people, I guess that's just not going to work because there's too many automakers that have to write software and come up with communication protocols between the charger and the vehicle. So maybe these V4 superchargers could end up having the first payment terminals and displays on them. Definitely, though, look to be a lot cheaper and a lot simpler than the ginormous, like, Windows PCs that they bake into Electrify America stations that you can just tell are super expensive and yet don't work all the time. You just know it. So, of course, I'll keep you guys posted as soon as someone gets up close to one of these V4 cabinets, and I'll make a video if it appears that they are updating the back end as well. But as far as I can tell, these are just updated dispensers, which are still going to be focused on 250 kilowatts, just with a bigger emphasis on accessibility, you know, longer cable, Magic Dock standard so that CCS vehicles can charge. And I'm very happy to see the rollout of these happening so fast. Within the span of about 24 hours, we're seeing them show up in Sparks, Nevada and Wilsonville, Oregon. So who knows how many other locations they're deploying. You know, if it's anything like V3, it starts out with just a handful of locations, and then before you know it, it feels like every single day there's a new one opening up, which would be great because I know it's a big concern for a lot of Tesla customers out there. They're like, I don't want you to open up the network to non-Teslas. There's already crazy lines and crazy business going on with the V3 superchargers. So if Tesla can unlock some more federal and state funding to roll out the V4 supercharger network even faster, that would be a massive win in my book, regardless of if they peak out at 250 kilowatts or not. So start your tallies. How many V4 charging stations do you think Tesla can roll out before next year when they start opening up the network to CCS vehicles? All your thoughts and guesses, drop them down in the comments below. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.